Commander Kim Jae-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, staring at the stars through the main view screen. The ship floated silently near Jupiter's orbit, its hull scarred from countless battles. Earth was a tiny blue dot in the distance, but Kim could see the alien ships surrounding his home world like hungry wolves. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of life support systems. Kim's crew worked at their stations with grim faces. They all knew what was coming. After 3 years of war, humanity was losing badly. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Valith flagship," said Communications Officer Park Ji-won. Her voice was steady, but Kim could hear the fear underneath. "Put it on screen," Kim ordered. The view screen flickered, and the face of Admiral Thexvar appeared. The alien looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect, with 4 eyes that glowed purple and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. His translator made his words sound cold and mechanical. "Commander Kim Jae-ho of the humans," Thexvar said. "Your species has fought well, but this war is over. We offer you one final chance to surrender." Kim crossed his arms. "We've heard your offers before, Thexvar. The answer is still no." The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "You do not understand, human. This is not a negotiation. Surrender now, and your species will serve the collective. You will work in our mines, our factories, our research facilities. Your children will learn to obey. It is a better fate than extinction." "Better for who?" Kim asked. "Your planet has 24 of your hours to decide," Thexvar continued, ignoring the question. "If you do not surrender, we will destroy every city on Earth. Your people will die slowly, one settlement at a time, until none remain. Choose wisely, Commander." The transmission ended. Kim stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Around him, his crew waited for orders that he didn't know how to give. "Sir," said Dr. Park Sunmi, the ship's chief scientist. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. "May I speak with you privately?" Kim nodded and followed her to his ready room. The space was cramped, with a small desk and 2 chairs. Pictures of Earth hung on the walls, mountains, oceans, cities full of people who were counting on him to save them. Dr. Park activated a privacy screen that would keep their conversation secret. "Commander, I've been studying the Valith for 3 years. There's something you need to know about their mercy." "What do you mean?" Dr. Park pulled up a holographic display showing brain scans and biological data. "The Valith don't just want slaves, sir. They want our minds. Every species they've conquered has been turned into biocomputers. They harvest neural patterns and use them to power their technology." Kim felt his blood turn cold. "You're saying they're going to turn us into machines?" "Worse than that. They'll keep our consciousness alive but trapped. We'll be aware but unable to control our own thoughts or actions. It's not slavery. It's a living hell that never ends." Kim sank into his chair. The weight of command had never felt heavier. "How do you know this?" "I've been analyzing the data we captured from their research stations. The Valith think human brains are special. We solve problems differently than other species. We're more creative, more adaptable. They want to use that creativity to improve their own technology." A chime sounded, and Park Ji-won's voice came through the intercom. "Commander, we're receiving emergency transmissions from Earth." Kim and Dr. Park hurried back to the bridge. The main screen showed dozens of incoming messages from across the planet. Kim's heart clenched as he saw familiar faces, friends, family members, fellow officers who had stayed behind to organize the resistance. "Connect me to Seoul," Kim ordered. Screen showed his sister, Lee Na-young, broadcasting from a bombed-out building in the Korean capital. She wore a dirty resistance uniform and held a rifle in her hands. Behind her, Kim could see other fighters preparing defensive positions. "Jae-ho," she said, her voice crackling through the damaged communication equipment. "The aliens are landing, troops in every major city. We're fighting them street by street, but we can't hold out much longer. Please tell me you have a plan." Kim wanted to lie to give her hope, but he couldn't find the words. Around the world, similar scenes were playing out. In Tokyo, resistance fighters were bombing alien supply lines. In London, civilians were fleeing underground as Valith warships burned the sky. In New York, children were being evacuated to bunkers that probably wouldn't save them anyway. "We're doing everything we can," Kim finally said. It wasn't enough, but it was all he had. "I know you are," Na-young replied. "Just remember, we'd rather die fighting than live on our knees. All of us down here feel the same way." The transmission cut out as explosions rocked the Seoul broadcast station. Kim stared at the blank screen, feeling helpless and furious at the same time. "Sir," said Lieutenant Colonel Song Min-ho, the ship's tactical officer, "the rest of the fleet is requesting orders. Admiral Choi wants to know if we're going to surrender." Kim looked around the bridge at his crew. These men and women had followed him through 3 years of impossible battles. They trusted him to make the right choice, even when there was no right choice to make. "Get me a connection to all remaining ships," Kim ordered. Park Ji-won worked quickly at her station. "You're connected, sir. All 47 vessels are standing by." Kim activated the fleet-wide communication system. Across the solar system, thousands of human spacers listened as their commander spoke. "This is Kim Jae-ho. You all know what the aliens are offering. You've all seen what they do to the species they conquer. They claim they're being merciful, but we know the truth. They want to turn us into living computers, to steal our minds and use them as tools." He paused, thinking of his sister fighting in the ruins of Seoul, of his daughter somewhere on Earth probably hiding in a bunker. "We have a choice to make. We can surrender and hope for a quick death, or we can fight and know we'll die free. I can't make this decision alone. It has to be something we all agree on." The responses came in quickly. Ship after ship reported the same thing. Their crews had voted, and the choice was unanimous. Humanity would not surrender. Kim felt a strange sense of peace settle over him. The decision was made. Now all that remained was to show the galaxy what humans were really made of. "Very well," he said to the fleet. "We fight. Prepare for battle. Stations. Let's show these aliens that some things are worth dying for." As his crew rushed to their positions, Kim looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, the Valith fleet was preparing to destroy everything he had ever loved. But they would learn that humans didn't break easily. They were about to discover what happened when you cornered a species that valued freedom more than life itself. The conference room aboard the UES Defiance was packed with holograms. Fleet commanders from across the solar system appeared as blue-tinted figures around the long table. The real attendees, those lucky enough to be on the flagship, sat in uncomfortable silence as they waited for the meeting to begin. Commander Kim Jae-ho looked at each face, knowing that many of these people would be dead within hours. Captain Han Bo-ram of the science vessel. Prometheus sat to his left, her fingers drumming nervously on the table. Admiral Choi Woo-jin appeared as a hologram from the battleship Incheon, his weathered face grim but determined. "Let's get right to it," Kim said. "We have 18 hours before the Valith deadline. I want to hear everyone's thoughts before we make our final decision." Captain Han spoke first. "Commander, I've run the numbers a dozen times. We have 47 ships against their 300. Even if we fought perfectly, we'd lose. If we surrender, at least some humans might survive." "Survive as what?" "Doctor," Park Sun-mi asked from her seat near the back. "Captain, with respect, you haven't seen the data I've collected. The Valith don't keep slaves in the traditional sense." Admiral Choi's hologram leaned forward. "Explain that, Doctor." Dr. Park stood and activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Images of alien brain tissue and technological implants appeared in the air. The Valith Collective has conquered 17 different species over the past 2 centuries. Not one of those species still exists as we would understand life. The room fell silent as more images appeared. Biological computers made from living tissue, vast processing centers where consciousness had been turned into software. They call it Integration, Dr. Park continued. They remove the brain from the body and connect it directly to their computer networks. The victim remains conscious, but has no control over their thoughts or actions. Their creativity and problem-solving abilities are harvested to improve Valeth technology. Captain Han's face went pale. How long do the victims survive this process? Indefinitely, Dr. Park said quietly. The Valeth have perfected life support for neural tissue. Some of the consciousness patterns I've detected are over 100 years old. They're still aware, still suffering, but completely helpless. Commander Kim felt sick. He had imagined many horrible fates for humanity, but this was worse than anything he had considered. Around the table, other officers looked equally shaken. There has to be another option, said Colonel Song Min-ho. Some way to negotiate. I tried that, Kim replied. 3 years ago when this war started. The Valeth don't negotiate. They make demands and expect obedience. The only choice they've ever offered is immediate surrender or total destruction. A new hologram flickered to life. Lieutenant Kang Do-hyun, calling in from his scout ship near Saturn's rings. Commander, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have new information. Go ahead, Lieutenant. Kang's young face was streaked with tears. Sir, I just returned from a recon mission to the Zalani system. The Valeth conquered the Zalani about 50 years ago. They told us the Zalani chose to surrender and were living peacefully as part of the collective. What did you find? Dr. Park asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. Nothing, Doctor. No cities, no farms, no signs of civilization. Just massive processing centers full of biological computers. I detected consciousness patterns in the machines, thousands of them. The Zalani are still alive, but they're not living. They're just thinking for their masters. The room erupted in angry voices. Some officers demanded immediate attack, others insisted on finding a third option. Kim let them argue for a few minutes before calling for order. Enough, he said firmly. We all understand the situation now. The Valeth lied to us just like they lied to everyone else. Surrender means a fate worse than death. Fighting means we die, but we die as ourselves. Captain Han wiped her eyes. Commander, I withdraw my recommendation to surrender. I'd rather burn in space than become a living computer. Admiral Choi nodded grimly. The Inchin's crew voted an hour ago. We fight, regardless of the odds. One by one, the other commanders reported the same thing. Their crews had heard the truth about Valeth mercy and chosen to resist. Not a single ship wanted to surrender. Then it's decided, Kim said. We fight. Now let's talk about how. Colonel Song activated the tactical display. Sir, I've been working on something I call the Swarm Protocol. Instead of trying to match their firepower, we use our smaller numbers as an advantage. The display showed the human fleet breaking into small groups and attacking the Valeth formation from multiple directions. We coordinate precise strikes against their command ships. Even if we can't win, we can hurt them badly enough that other species might see them as vulnerable. It's a suicide mission, Captain Han observed. Every option is a suicide mission at this point, Song replied. At least this way we go down fighting. Dr. Park raised her hand. Commander, I have a proposal that might make our sacrifice more meaningful. I'm listening. For the past year, I've been developing a quantum virus. It's designed to piggyback on Valeth communication networks and spread their own technology against them. If we can upload it during the battle, it will reveal their weaknesses to every species they've oppressed. Kim studied the technical specifications that appeared on the display. Will it work? I think so. The virus is designed to copy itself through their entire network. It will carry information about human resistance, about what really happens to conquered species, and about Valeth tactical weaknesses. Other civilizations will know the truth. Admiral Choi smiled grimly. So even. If we lose, we might inspire others to rebel. That's the idea, Dr. Park confirmed. Lieutenant Kang spoke up from his scout ship. Commander, I volunteer to carry the virus. Scout ships are fast and hard to hit. I might be able to get close enough to upload it directly to their flagship. Kim felt a surge of pride in his young officer, even as his heart broke. Thank you, Lieutenant. Dr. Park, how long do you need to prepare the virus? It's ready now, sir. I just need to encode it into a transmission format. Do it, Kim ordered. He looked around the room at the faces of his officers. Holographic and real alike. These people were about to die for humanity, and they knew it. Not one of them complained or asked to be reassigned. Are there any other preparations we need to make? Kim asked. Park Ji-won, the communications officer, spoke quietly. Sir, what about a final message? Should we try to tell the galaxy why we chose to fight? Kim nodded slowly. Yes. We'll broadcast one final transmission before the battle begins. Let the universe know that humans don't surrender their freedom, no matter the cost. The meeting broke up as officers returned to their ships to prepare for battle. Kim remained in the conference room with Dr. Park and Colonel Song, going over final details of their desperate plan. Sir, Dr. Park said as she finished uploading the virus to the communication system, I want you to know this is the right choice. Even if we can't save ourselves, we might save others. I hope you're right, Doctor. Colonel Song checked his tactical display one more time. Commander, the fleet will be ready in 6 hours. All ships are implementing the swarm protocol modifications. Kim stood and walked to the window. Earth looked so small and peaceful from this distance. It was hard to believe that in a few hours it would be under attack by 300 alien warships. Sir, Park Ji-won's voice came through the intercom. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's from Professor Yang Hye-jin at the Seoul National University. Put her through to my ready room, Kim replied. Professor Yang appeared on Kim's personal communication screen. She was an elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair. Behind her, Kim could see the ruins of what had once been a beautiful campus. Commander Kim, she said, I wanted to speak with you before the end. I've been studying the Valith longer than anyone else on Earth. I know what they really want from us. Dr. Park has briefed me, Professor. Good. Then you understand why surrender is impossible. Commander, I've spent my whole life studying alien civilizations. The Valith are not evil in the way humans understand evil. They genuinely believe they're improving the species they conquer. But they're wrong. Consciousness trapped in a machine is not life, it's torture. Kim nodded. We won't let that happen to humanity. I know you won't. Commander, when you broadcast your final message, please tell the galaxy about us. Tell them about human art, human music, human love. Tell them about our children playing in parks and our elders sharing stories. The Valith see us as resources to be harvested. Show the universe that we were so much more. The transmission ended, leaving Kim alone with his thoughts. In a few hours, he would give the order that would end human civilization. But maybe, just maybe, their sacrifice would mean something to the rest of the galaxy. He opened a communication channel to his sister, Na-young, fighting somewhere in the ruins of Seoul. He wanted to hear her voice one more time before the end. Chief Engineer Lim Tae-young had not slept in 36 hours. His hands were steady despite the exhaustion as he made final adjustments to the fusion reactor modifications. Around him in the engine room, his team worked with desperate efficiency to turn their ship into a weapon. How are we looking, Chief? Commander Kim asked as he entered the engineering section. Lim wiped sweat from his forehead. We've removed all the safety protocols from the fusion reactor, sir. When you give the order, I can overload the containment field. The explosion will be equivalent to a small star going supernova. And our ship? Will be completely destroyed, along with anything within 50,000 kilometers. Lim's voice was matter-of-fact, as if he were discussing routine maintenance. The other ships are implementing the same modifications. We'll each be carrying enough firepower to take out several Valith vessels. Kim nodded grimly. It was a desperate strategy, but it was all they had. How long do you need? Another hour to finish the modifications. After that, we can trigger the overload at any time. Kim left the engineers to their work and made his way to the communications center. Park Ji-won was hunched over her console, making final adjustments to humanity's last message to the galaxy. Status report, communications officer. Almost ready, sir. Dr. Park's virus is encoded and ready for transmission. I've also prepared the broadcast system for your final speech. When you're ready, it will go out on every frequency we can access. Including Valith channels? Especially Valith channels. They won't be able to block it. The signal will piggyback on their own communication network thanks to Dr. Park's virus. Dr. Park Sunmi looked up from her workstation nearby. Commander, the virus is more sophisticated than I initially described. Once it enters their network, it will spread to every ship, every base, every colony they control. The information about what really happens to conquered species will reach every corner of their empire. And other civilizations will learn the truth, Kim said. Not just the truth about the Valith. The virus will carry complete records of human resistance, our culture, our refusal to surrender. Other species will know that it's possible to fight back, even against impossible odds. Lieutenant Colonel Song Min-ho approached with a tablet full of tactical data. Commander, the fleet is ready to implement the swarm protocol. Every ship knows their target and their role. Kim studied the battle plan. The human fleet would split into 7 groups, each targeting a different section of the Valith formation. They would attack simultaneously from multiple directions, hoping to overwhelm the aliens' ability to coordinate their defenses. What about Lieutenant Kang's mission? Kim asked. He's standing by near the asteroid belt. His scout ship has been modified with extra armor and shielding. He'll wait for our attack to begin, then make his run at the Valith flagship. Kim's personal communicator chimed. A message from Earth appeared on the screen. It was from his daughter, Yu Yunbi. She was 17 years old and fighting with the Soul Resistance alongside her aunt Na Young. Dad, her recorded message began, I know you're about to do something dangerous. I want you to know that I'm proud of you. We all are. Down here, we're not just fighting for our lives anymore. We're fighting to show the universe what humans are capable of. The image showed his daughter in resistance fatigues, holding a rifle that looked too big for her small frame. Behind her, other young fighters were preparing defensive positions in what had once been a school. Aunt Na Young told me about the choice you have to make. We've made the same choice down here. We'd rather die as humans than live as machines. Show them what we're made of, Dad. Show them that humans don't kneel. The message ended with Yunbi smiling and giving a small salute. Kim felt his eyes water, but he pushed the emotion aside. There would be time for grief later, if there was. Later. Sir, Park Ji-won said quietly. We're receiving final messages from across the fleet. Would you like to review them? Kim nodded and took the communication tablet. Message after message scrolled past. Final words from crew members to their families, personal logs recording their last thoughts, video messages from children who would never grow up. Captain Han Bo-ram of the Prometheus had recorded a message for her parents in Busan. Mom, Dad, I want you to know that your daughter died fighting for something bigger than herself. Take care of each other. Admiral Choi Woo-jin's message was for his son, a Marine fighting on the surface of Mars. Remember what I taught you about honor. Sometimes the right choice is the hard choice. Lieutenant Kang Do-hyun had left a message for his girlfriend in Tokyo. Me Young, I wish we had more time, but I'm glad I got to love you, even if it was only for a little while. The messages went on and on. Kim realized he was reading the final words of an entire species, the last thoughts of humanity before they charged into oblivion. Commander, Dr. Park said softly, there's something else. I've been in contact with resistance cells across the galaxy, other species that are currently under Valith control. They're watching us. What do you mean? Hidden communication networks that the Valith don't know about. When we broadcast our final message, it won't just reach the collective's official channels. Underground resistance movements will hear it too. Species that have been trapped as biocomputers for decades are still aware enough to receive transmissions. Kim felt a chill. They're watching us? They're hoping. For the first time in generations, someone is choosing to fight instead of surrender. Even if we lose, we'll prove that resistance is possible. A new alarm sounded throughout the ship. Kim rushed to the bridge, where the main screen showed long-range sensors detecting movement in the outer solar system. "Report," Kim ordered. "Valith fleet is beginning their approach," said the sensor operator. 300 ships in formation, heading directly for Earth. They'll reach our position in 4 hours. Kim activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Commander Kim. The enemy is approaching. Begin final preparations for combat. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every species that dreams of freedom." He closed the channel and turned to his senior staff. "Dr. Park, is the virus ready?" "Ready, sir." "Colonel Song, are our weapon systems prepared?" "All ships report ready for combat, sir." "Communications Officer Park, is the broadcast system online?" "Standing by for your final transmission, Commander." Kim looked around the bridge at his crew. These people had followed him through 3 years of war against impossible odds. Now they were preparing to follow him into certain death. Not one of them had asked to be transferred to a safer assignment. "Sir," said Dr. Park, "I've received word from Earth. The resistance leaders want to coordinate their final assault with our attack. When you give the order, every human on the planet will fight simultaneously." Kim nodded. It was fitting that humanity's last battle would involve every survivor, from the mighty warships in space to the teenagers with rifles hiding in bombed-out buildings. "Commander," Park Ji-won said, "you should record your message now. Once the battle begins, we might not have another chance." Kim walked to his ready room and sat behind his desk. The walls were covered with pictures of Earth, mountains, oceans, cities full of people who were counting on him to give their deaths meaning. He activated the recording system and looked directly into the camera. In a few hours, his words would travel across the galaxy, carrying humanity's final defiant cry to every corner of space. "This is Commander Kim Jae-ho of the United Earth Space Force," he began. "I am speaking for all of humanity, those in space, those fighting on Earth's surface, and those who have already given their lives for freedom." He paused, thinking about his daughter fighting in Seoul, his sister leading the resistance, all the brave souls who had chosen to die rather than surrender. "We know what you offer, Valith Collective. We know what happens to species that accept your mercy. We have seen the truth about your integration process, about the living hell you create for conquered minds." Kim stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars where 300 enemy ships were approaching. "We reject your offer. We choose to fight. We choose to die free, rather than live as slaves. And we choose to send a message to every species in this galaxy. Resistance is possible. Freedom is worth any price." He returned to his desk and stared directly into the camera again. "You came here expecting us to kneel. You thought fear would break our spirit. You were wrong. Humans don't surrender. We don't compromise on freedom. And we don't forgive those who threaten our children." Kim's voice grew harder, carrying the weight of 3 years of war and the pain of watching his species die. "You have chosen to come to our home. You have chosen to demand our submission. You have chosen to threaten everything we love." He leaned forward, his eyes burning with determination. "Very well. You have chosen your fate." Kim ended the recording and returned to the bridge. It was time to prepare for humanity's final battle. The bridge of the UES Defiance was silent except for the steady beeping of sensor equipment. Commander Kim Jae-ho stood before the main view screen, watching as 300 Valith warships approached Earth in perfect formation. Their ships were massive, each one 3 times the size of humanity's largest battleship. "Range to enemy fleet?" Kim asked quietly. 2 million kilometers and closing, reported the sensor operator. They'll reach Earth orbit in 30 minutes. Kim nodded and activated his personal communicator. Across the human fleet, 47 ship commanders waited for his orders. In the cities below, resistance fighters prepared for their final stands. This was the moment that would define humanity's legacy. All ships, this is Commander Kim. Prepare to broadcast on all frequencies. It's time. Park Ji-won's fingers flew over her console. Communication systems online, sir. We're connected to every Valeth ship, every human settlement, and every hidden resistance network in the galaxy. Dr. Park Sunmi looked up from her station. Virus is encoded and ready for transmission. Once you begin speaking, it will piggyback on your signal and spread through their entire network. Kim straightened his uniform and walked to the center of the bridge. The camera system activated, and he knew that his image was now being broadcast to millions of beings across known space. This is Commander Kim Jae-ho of the United Earth Space Force, speaking for humanity. His voice was calm and steady, carrying the weight of an entire species' defiance across the void. On Valeth ships, alien commanders stopped their preparations to listen. In hidden bunkers across 17 star systems, enslaved consciousness patterns stirred with something they had not felt in decades: hope. We have heard your ultimatum, Admiral Thexvar. We have seen what you do to species that surrender to your collective. We understand exactly what you offer when you speak of mercy and integration. Kim paused, looking directly into the camera. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet determination. You believe you understand humans because you have studied us for 3 years. You think we are like the other species you have conquered. That fear will make us reasonable. That survival instinct will overcome our principles. The transmission continued across space, reaching deep into Valeth territory where other civilizations listened in secret. On a distant world, the consciousness of a Zalani elder, trapped in a biocomputer for 50 years, felt tears he could not shed as he heard words of defiance. You have made a fundamental error in your calculations, Kim continued. Humans do not fight merely to survive. We fight for what we believe in. We fight for the right to choose our own destiny. We fight for our children's freedom to become whatever they dream of being. On Earth's surface, resistance fighters gathered around communication equipment to hear their commander's words. In Seoul, Lee Na-young and her teenage fighters listened while preparing to assault a Valeth landing craft. In London, elderly civilians armed with hunting rifles smiled grimly as they heard humanity's final declaration. We have chosen our path, Kim said. We choose to die as free beings, rather than live as components in your machines. We choose to fight rather than kneel. We choose to show this galaxy that some things are worth any sacrifice. Admiral Thexvar's flagship received the transmission with growing alarm. The Valeth commander's 4 eyes blazed with anger as he realized the humans were rejecting his generous offer. Around him, his officers prepared for a battle they had not expected. You came to our home, Kim continued, his voice growing harder. You came to the cradle of human civilization and demanded that we surrender everything that makes us human. You thought we would be grateful for the chance to serve you. Dr. Park watched her instruments as the quantum virus began spreading through the Valeth communication network. Already it was reaching ships at the edge of their formation, copying itself and propagating through their systems. We know about the Zalani, Kim said. We know about the Torvak, the Mexari, the Kef. We know what you did to 17 different civilizations that trusted your promises of peaceful integration. We have seen the truth about your biocomputers. Across the galaxy, beings that had been enslaved for generations suddenly found their prison networks flooded with new information. The virus carried not just data about human resistance, but complete cultural archives, music, art, literature, and the stories of a species that refused to surrender. You speak of evolution, of improvement, of joining something greater than ourselves. Kim continued. But there is nothing greater than the freedom to choose. There is nothing more valuable than the right to live according to our own values. There is nothing worth preserving more than the ability to love, to dream, and to hope for a better future. Lieutenant Kang Do-hyun listened from his scout ship hidden in the asteroid belt. His modified vessel was loaded with additional copies of the virus, ready to deliver them directly to the Valeth flagship when the battle began. We reject your offer not because we do not understand it, but because we understand it perfectly, Kim said. You offer us existence without life, consciousness without choice, awareness without agency. You would preserve our minds while destroying our souls. The transmission reached underground networks on worlds throughout Valeth space. Species that had been conquered decades ago suddenly realized they were not alone in their suffering. Hidden resistance cells began activating, preparing for uprisings that had seemed impossible just hours before. Look around you, Admiral Thexvar, Kim said, addressing the alien commander directly. Look at your ships, your weapons, your mighty fleet. All of it built with the stolen creativity of conquered minds, all of it powered by the enslaved consciousness of beings who once dreamed of freedom. On the Valeth flagship, Admiral Thexvar's mandibles clicked with rage. His sensors were detecting massive system intrusions as the human virus spread through his fleet's networks. For the first time in his long career, he felt something approaching uncertainty. You have become parasites, Kim continued. You no longer create, you only consume. You no longer explore, you only conquer. You no longer grow, you only absorb. In destroying the freedom of others, you have destroyed your own ability to truly live. The virus continued its relentless spread, reaching communication relays on distant worlds. On a mining planet in Valeth space, enslaved Torvak consciousness. Patterns shared the transmission with hidden resistance cells still fighting in the deep caves. We choose a different path, Kim said. We choose to remain human, with all the flaws and limitations that entails. We choose to keep our dreams, our hopes, our capacity for love and sacrifice. We choose to die as ourselves rather than live as extensions of your will. Kim looked out at the approaching fleet, his expression calm despite the magnitude of what was about to happen. You came here believing you were superior to us. You came expecting easy surrender from a primitive species. You came thinking that your technology and numbers would overwhelm our simple determination. Behind him, Chief Engineer Lim reported that the fusion reactor modifications were complete. Colonel Song confirmed that all ships were in position for the swarm protocol. The human fleet was ready to transform themselves into guided missiles. You were wrong, Kim said simply. We are not superior because of our technology or our numbers. We are not stronger because of our weapons or our tactics. We are better than you because we choose to be, because we would rather die fighting for our beliefs than live in violation of them. The transmission was now reaching the farthest corners of Valeth space. On worlds where the last free beings hid in underground cities, ancient leaders who had given up hope suddenly felt their hearts beat faster. You have chosen to come here, Kim said, his voice carrying the finality of judgment. You have chosen to threaten our children, our homes, our way of life. You have chosen to demand that we surrender the very essence of what makes us human. Kim stepped closer to the camera, his eyes blazing with determination. Very well, Admiral Thexvar. You have chosen your fate. The transmission ended, but the virus continued spreading through Valeth networks at light speed. Within hours, it would reach every corner of their empire, carrying humanity's message of defiance to countless enslaved minds. On the bridge of the Defiance, Kim turned to his crew. All ships, execute swarm protocol. Lieutenant Kang, begin your approach. Dr. Park, monitor the virus spread. Virus propagation successful, Dr. Park reported. It's reached 60% of their fleet and growing. Resistance networks across 17 systems are receiving the transmission. Kim nodded and opened a final channel to Earth. "Na Young, if you can hear this, make them remember us?" His sister's voice crackled back through the static. "They'll remember, brother. They'll remember that humans don't kneel." The battle was about to begin. Humanity's final stand would start not with surrender, but with defiance that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The first shots of humanity's last battle came from the Valeth fleet. Purple energy beams lanced across space toward the human formation, but the ships were no longer where the aliens expected them to be. "Swarm protocol is active," reported Colonel Song from his tactical station. "All groups are moving to attack positions." Commander Kim watched the main screen as 47 human ships split into 7 groups, each one racing toward a different section of the massive Valeth formation. The enemy fleet was trying to regroup, but they had been prepared for a traditional battle line, not this chaotic assault from multiple directions. "Group 3 is beginning their attack run," Park Ji-won announced as transmissions flooded in. From across the battle zone, Captain Han Bo-ram's voice crackled over the communication system. "Prometheus to all ships. We're going in. It's been an honor serving with you all." The science vessel Prometheus, loaded with modified fusion reactors, dove straight toward a Valeth carrier twice its size. Energy beams tore through its hull, but Han kept her ship on course. When the Prometheus finally struck the alien vessel, both ships vanished in an explosion that lit up the space around Jupiter. "Direct hit," Song reported. "The carrier and its entire fighter complement are gone." Kim felt a mixture of pride and grief as he watched the tactical display. Each human ship that died took several Valeth vessels with them, but the mathematics were still against them. For every alien ship destroyed, humanity lost irreplaceable lives. "Group 5 is engaging the enemy's left flank," the communications officer announced. Admiral Choi Woo-jin's battleship Incheon led 4 smaller vessels in a coordinated strike against a cluster of Valeth destroyers. The old admiral's voice came through clearly despite the chaos around him. "For Earth, for freedom, for humanity." The Incheon's weapons fired continuously as it charged into the heart of the enemy formation. Choi had removed all safety protocols from his ship's weapons systems, causing them to overheat and explode with devastating effect. When the smoke cleared, 7 Valeth ships were gone, along with the Incheon and her brave crew. "Sir," Dr. Park called out from her station, "the virus is working. I'm detecting system failures throughout their fleet. Their coordination is breaking. Down." Kim could see it on the tactical display. The perfect Valeth formation was beginning to scatter as ships lost communication with their command structure. The quantum virus was spreading faster than their technicians could contain it, carrying not just system intrusions, but the complete record of human defiance. "Lieutenant Kang is beginning his approach," Song reported, "on the long-range sensors." Kim could see the tiny scout ship racing toward the massive Valeth flagship. Kang's vessel had been stripped of everything unnecessary and loaded with extra copies of the virus, armor plating, and a determination to complete his mission. "Kang, this is Kim. How's your approach?" The young pilot's voice was steady despite the enemy fire converging on his position. "Clean run so far, Commander. Their point defense is having trouble tracking something this small. I should reach the flagship in 3 minutes." Kim watched as energy beams missed the scout ship by mere meters. Kang was flying like a man possessed, using every asteroid and piece of debris as cover while he closed the distance to his target. "Group 7 is engaging," Park Ji-won announced. 4 human ships led by the destroyer Seoul struck at the Valeth fleet's command section. Their mission was to cause as much confusion as possible, while Kang made his run at the flagship. The Seoul's captain, Kim's old friend, Commander Lee Hyun-woo, opened a channel. "Kim, we're drawing their fire. Get that virus uploaded before we're all dead." "Understood, Hyun-woo. Give them hell." The Soul and her escorts dove into the thickest part of the enemy formation, their weapons blazing. They were vastly outnumbered, but their desperate attacks forced the Valeth to redirect ships from other parts of the battle. "Sir?" called Chief Engineer Lim from the engine room. "Our fusion reactors are ready for overload. When do you want to begin our run?" Kim looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was being systematically destroyed, but they were taking a heavy toll on the enemy. More importantly, the virus was spreading throughout the Valeth network, reaching ships across their entire empire. "Not yet, Chief. Let's see how Kang's mission goes first." On the screen, the scout ship was now within range of the Valeth flagship. Enemy fighters swarmed around the tiny vessel, but Kang's modifications were holding. His ship's armor absorbed hit after hit while he maneuvered toward the flagship's communication array. "I'm in position," Kang reported. "Beginning upload now." Kim held his breath as the young pilot's ship connected directly to the alien vessel's systems. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then alarms began sounding throughout the Valeth fleet. "Upload successful," Dr. Park announced. "The virus is now in their command network. It's spreading to every ship in their fleet simultaneously." Kang's ship pulled away from the flagship, but enemy fire finally found its mark. The scout vessel exploded in a brief flash of light, taking its pilot's dreams and courage with it. "Kang is gone," Song reported quietly. Kim closed his eyes for a moment, honoring the sacrifice of another brave soul. When he opened them, the tactical display showed that the virus was having a massive effect on the Valeth fleet. Ships were dropping out of formation as their systems failed. Communication networks were breaking down across their entire empire. "Sir?" Dr. Park said excitedly. "I'm receiving transmissions from Valeth space. The virus has reached their home systems. Underground resistance networks are activating on dozens of worlds." Kim felt a surge of hope. Even if humanity died today, their sacrifice was inspiring others to fight back. The Valeth Collective was about to discover what happened when you tried to enslave an entire galaxy. "Commander," Park Ji-won called out. "Transmission coming in from Earth." The main screen showed Lee Na-young broadcasting from the ruins of Seoul. Behind her, resistance fighters were engaging Valeth ground troops in fierce urban combat. "Jae-ho, we can see the battle from here. You're making them pay for every ship they lose. Down here, we're hitting them just as hard. Every landing force they send gets torn apart in the streets." The transmission flickered as explosions rocked the building Na-young was using as a command post. "The whole planet is fighting," she continued. "From the Arctic research stations to the African wilderness camps, everyone with a weapon is taking shots at these aliens. They thought they were conquering a broken species, but they're learning the truth." Another explosion, closer this time. Na-young's image wavered but held steady. "We're proud of you, brother. All of us. Show them what happens when they threaten our children." The transmission cut out as the Seoul command post took a direct hit. Kim stared at the blank screen, knowing he might never see his sister again. "Sir," Song called out urgently. "Enemy reinforcements approaching from the outer system. Looks like they called in additional fleets." Kim looked at the sensors and felt his heart sink. 200 more Valeth ships were approaching from beyond. Neptune's orbit. The aliens had been holding reserves in case the humans proved more difficult than expected. "How long until they reach us?" 40 minutes, sir." Kim made a quick calculation. The human fleet was already down to 23 ships. They couldn't fight both the original force and the reinforcements. "All ships. This is Commander Kim." "Enemy. Reinforcements are approaching. We need to finish this now. All remaining vessels, prepare for final attack runs." Around the solar system, the surviving human ships acknowledged their orders. There would be no retreat, no surrender, no second chances. This was humanity's final stand. "Chief Lim, prepare the Defiance for overload," Kim ordered. "Aye, sir. Fusion reactors are ready. We can trigger the explosion at any time." Kim looked around the bridge at his crew. These people had followed him through 3 years of impossible battles. Now they were preparing to follow him into death itself. Dr. Park, what's the status of the virus? It's reached 80% of their empire, sir. Resistance networks are going active across 17 star systems. The Zalani, the Torvak, the Mexari, they're all fighting back simultaneously. Kim nodded. Even if the human fleet died here, their sacrifice would not be in vain. The galaxy was learning that the Valith could be beaten. All ships, this is your final order, Kim announced to the fleet. Attack at will. Make every death count. Show them that humans don't surrender. The remaining 23 human ships charged into the heart of the Valith formation. It was a sight that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. A handful of vessels flying directly towards certain death, their crews singing war songs and firing every weapon they had. Kim watched the tactical display as his ships died one by one, each explosion taking multiple enemy vessels with them. The mathematics of the battle had stopped mattering. This was no longer about winning or losing. This was about showing the universe what humans were capable of when their backs were against the wall. Sir, Park Ji-won said quietly. Final transmission coming in from the fleet. The voices of 23 ship captains came through simultaneously, creating a chorus of defiance that echoed across space. For Earth, for freedom, for humanity. Then, one by one, the human ships began their final runs toward the enemy. The UES Defiance was the last human ship still fighting. Around Commander Kim Jae-ho, his bridge crew worked at damaged stations while emergency lighting cast red shadows across their faces. 22 other vessels had already made their final runs, taking nearly 100 Valith ships with them. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, reported Chief Engineer Lim over the intercom. Life support is failing. We have maybe 10 minutes before the ship breaks apart. Kim looked at the tactical display. The Valith reinforcements had arrived and were overwhelming the last pockets of human resistance on Earth. In Seoul, his sister's final transmission had been cut short by orbital bombardment. Across the planet, the resistance was being systematically crushed. Dr. Park, what's the status of the virus? It's reached every corner of their empire, sir, she replied, blood running down her face from a head wound. Resistance movements are active on 47 worlds. The collective's control is breaking down. Kim nodded grimly. Humanity was dying, but their legacy would live on. The quantum virus had done more than spread system failures. It had carried the complete story of human resistance to every enslaved consciousness in Valith space. Sir, Park Ji-won called out, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The resistance movements are sending messages. The main screen flickered to life, showing dozens of different alien faces. These were the survivors of conquered species, the hidden communities that had somehow escaped Valith detection, the enslaved minds that had found ways to communicate despite their imprisonment. An elderly Zalani appeared first, his image transmitted from a hidden bunker on his homeworld. Humans of Earth, your courage has awakened something we thought was dead. We remember what freedom feels like. A Torvak resistance leader spoke from deep underground caverns. For 50 years, we believed we were alone. Today, you showed us that defiance is possible. We fight again. More faces appeared. Mexari rebels, Kef survivors, a dozen other species that Kim had never heard of. All of them had been conquered by the Valith collective. All of them had been waiting for someone to prove that resistance was possible. Commander Kim, said a voice that made him freeze. It was speaking in perfect Korean, but the face on the screen was clearly alien, one of the insectoid Valith themselves. My name is Researcher Velthar, the alien continued. I am part of a group within the collective that opposes our current path. Your virus has reached our homeworld. Many of us are questioning what we have become. Kim stared in shock. You're Valith rebels? We are scientists, philosophers, artists, those who remember when our species explored and created instead of conquered and consumed. Your message reminded us that there was once beauty in discovery, not just domination. The transmission was interrupted as the Defiance shook under enemy fire. Kim could see on his sensors that the Valith flagship was approaching, its weapons, charging for a final strike. "All hands, this is the commander," Kim announced over the ship's intercom. "Prepare for final maneuver. Chief Lim, are you ready?" "Fusion reactors are at critical overload, sir. When you give the order, we'll take half their fleet with us." Kim looked around the bridge one last time. His crew was ready to die, but they were not afraid. They had seen what their sacrifice was accomplishing across the galaxy. Humanity would not be forgotten. "Dr. Park, any final words for the universe?" She smiled, despite her injuries. "Tell them we lived free, and we died free. Tell them that no force in the universe can enslave a willing spirit." Kim activated the fleet-wide communication system. Even though the Defiance was now the only human ship left, his words would travel across space on the virus network, reaching every corner of the galaxy. "This is Commander Kim Jae-ho. Final transmission. From humanity. We came from a small blue world in a quiet corner of space. We were not the strongest species, or the smartest, or the most advanced, but we were free. Enemy weapons fire intensified around the Defiance as the Valith tried to stop the transmission. Kim ignored the damage reports and continued speaking. "We chose to remain free, even when it meant death. We chose to fight, rather than surrender. Our souls. We chose to show the galaxy that some things are worth any sacrifice." The ship's hull groaned under the stress of multiple weapon impacts. Kim could see the Valith flagship directly ahead, its massive form filling the view screen. "To the species listening to this message, freedom is not dead. Hope is not lost. The collective can conquer worlds, but they cannot conquer the desire to be free. That lives in every thinking being, and no technology can destroy it." Kim placed his hand on the manual overload control. Around him, his crew stood at attention, ready to follow their commander into death. We were humans, we were free, and we choose our fate. Kim triggered the fusion reactor overload. The Defiance became a miniature star for exactly 3 seconds, its explosion engulfing the Valith flagship and 17 other enemy vessels. Commander Kim Jae-ho and his crew died as they had lived, on their own terms. The destruction of the last human ship marked the end of the battle, but it was not the end of the story. Dr. Park's quantum virus continued spreading through Valith networks, carrying humanity's message to every corner of their empire. On Earth, the final pockets of resistance fell within hours. The last transmission came from a group of children hiding in the ruins of a Tokyo school. They sang a simple song about freedom before the signal was lost forever, but across the galaxy, something extraordinary was happening. On 47 worlds, resistance movements that had been dormant for generations suddenly came to life. The Zelani emerged from their underground cities, armed with weapons they had hidden for decades. The Torvak launched coordinated strikes against Valith mining operations. Even some of the enslaved consciousness patterns found ways to sabotage the biocomputers that held them prisoner. The Valith Collective, which had ruled unopposed for 2 centuries, suddenly found themselves fighting on dozens of fronts simultaneously. Their perfect unity was cracking as their own people began questioning the morality of their empire. Years passed. The Collective's grip on their conquered territories grew weaker as more species joined the rebellion. The virus had done more than spread tactical information. It had shared human culture, human art, human stories of love and sacrifice and hope. On a dead world that had once been called Earth, the Valith built a monument. It was not a celebration of their victory, but a memorial to an enemy they had come to respect. The inscription, written in 100 different languages, bore the final words of Commander Kim Jae-ho: "You have chosen your fate." 50 years after the fall of humanity, the Valith Collective finally collapsed, The empire that had seemed invincible was brought down by the ideas that humanity had spread in their final moments, that freedom was worth dying for, that resistance was always possible, and that no being should be forced to live without hope. In the ruins of the collective's capital world, representatives from 17 liberated species gathered to establish a new government based on the principles they had learned from humanity. They called it the Free Systems Alliance, and their charter began with words translated from an ancient human language. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all sentient beings are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But the most important part of humanity's legacy was hidden in the deepest vaults of the Earth Memorial. Dr. Park's virus had carried more than just information. It had preserved complete genetic templates, cultural archives, and even neural patterns of key human personalities. The virus waited patiently in data storage systems across the galaxy, programmed to activate when conditions were right for humanity's return. It monitored galactic conditions, waiting for worlds where freedom had taken root, where children could grow up without fear, where the ideals that humans had died for could flourish once again. 100 years after the last transmission from Earth, a young Zilani explorer named Kethri was investigating the ruins of an old Valith research facility. In the deepest levels, she found a small device that began to glow when she picked it up. A hologram appeared, the image of a middle-aged human woman with kind eyes and graying hair. When she spoke, her words were translated into perfect Zilani. "Hello, my name is Dr. Park Sunmi. If you're seeing this, it means freedom has returned to this part of the galaxy. Let me tell you about a species called humanity and why they chose to die rather than surrender their souls." The hologram continued. "We prepared for this moment. In hidden data caches across the galaxy, we preserved everything we were. Our genetic codes, our memories, our culture, our dreams. We planted the seeds of our rebirth among the stars, waiting for the day when the galaxy would be safe for freedom once again." Kethri listened in wonder as the human scientist explained humanity's final gift to the universe. "We died so that freedom might live. Now, if you choose to help us, we can live so that freedom might never die again. The choice is yours. Just as it was ours so many years ago." The device projected a star map showing dozens of hidden caches scattered throughout the galaxy. Each one contained the tools necessary to restore humanity to life, not as conquerors or rulers,